but I think it's moving in the right direction. There's another start. Good. Okay, 9 a.m. on Thursday, January 27th of 2022. This is the Iroquois County Policy and Procedure Committee. Would you call the roll, please, Amanda?
Aaron's,
Here.
Alt,
Here.
R,
Here.
Awful, here, sure,
Here.
barely here.
Everyone has a, or should have a copy of the agenda in front of them. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Bard,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Awful. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Are there any public comments this morning? I don't see any public here. Committee chair reports, Mr. Behrens, Management Committee and Judicial.
Management, we're doing fertilizer, and talking about the tile project. We'll probably, well, we're not gonna do the bids on the kennel because there's just too much confusion. I had 3 or 4 contractors call saying they needed better specs. So we gotta redo that and re-put it out for bid.
So delaying it by 1 month? Okay.
Judicial is regular reports.
Okay. All right, Health Committee, Mrs. Awful.
We'll have a regular, report and then animal control will report also.
Mr. Bard. Tax.
Department heads will be making their regular reports.
Mr. Alt, Highway.
We have a agreement, engineering agreement to look at for the, design of a bridge on Cable Line Road. That's north of Watsika. I'm not sure who it is. Any of you probably know, but I don't. Which road is that? We have the other regular things at our meeting, and that's it.
Okay, very good. I guess, for my comments today, I'd like to say one thing about the flood situation, which we've been very fortunate the past few years not to have to deal with. Last week, I attended a meeting of the Iroquois River Conservancy District in Indiana, which meets over in Rensselaer. They were going over some of their budgets for the coming year, election of officers and those kinds of things. And on Friday was another meeting of the KRBC they met up in Valparaiso. I was on a Zoom meeting on that one. One of the themes that seems to be running through is the people over in Indiana are very active in trying to manage the Iroquois River and the Kankakee River. They seem to be very proactive, I guess is a better word, because they're engaged in a number of projects to maintain and improve the conditions along the river, to get the log jams out, to stabilize the banks, and other similar projects intended to reduce the mitigation or increase, the mitigation of flooding and that sort of thing. And when I go over there, and I think Andy Wheeler up at Kankakee gets the same thing, they kind of look at us like saying, when are you guys gonna do something? The water comes from there over here. If we can't process it through our county in an expeditious manner, then it creates problems for them as well. And I realize there isn't anything that this board can do about it, but one of these days this county's gonna have to wake up and recognize that we do have a responsibility insofar as that river is concerned. Just like we have responsibilities for our highways and the other activities that we conduct. Also, last Friday, mentioned that there was a hearing over the courthouse relative to the activities going on with Iroquois Memorial Hospital. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. It's been reported on the radio and in the newspapers.
No, what you fill me in?
I will in a minute here. Basically, it's a situation that has to do with who has control of the hospital. It's a long story and a complicated story, and it's a matter of what's ongoing right now is bringing control of the hospital back to Iroquois County. Because of some money problems a few years ago, there were some changes made that haven't worked out as well as was intended. And obviously there's a lot of legal entanglements and different points of view involved in a situation of that sort, so that's one reason it's in the courts right now. There actually were 2 different lawsuits that were filed over this matter, and one was filed by the people on one side, one was filed by the people on the Iroquois County side. So the judge ruled on Friday that the lawsuit filed by the people on the Iroquois County side is the one that will govern the activities of the hospital or set the manner by which we're going to go forward. And I can give you a lot more information on that if you'd like later. It's kind of complicated. But there is another lawsuit involving the people from the outside, and that's in federal court down in Champaign, but it's not filed against the hospital per se. It's filed a suit against 2 of the directors. And so there was a dividing line that Judge Bartucci ruled 2 separate matters. And so the jurisdiction here in Iroquois County stands, and there will be another hearing or meeting and date in court on the 8th of February, right after in the afternoon after the county board meeting. It's going to be conducted by Zoom, however. So I don't know at this point if we'll have an opportunity to tune in or what the IP addresses are getting into that, but we've become aware of that information. We can certainly make it available to anybody that might be interested in this, because once it's reached a stage where it is now, where it's in the courts, it's a public matter to a large extent. So if anybody asks you any questions about any of it, I think that's probably the best way is to answer something along the lines of what I'm saying. But again, as I said, after the meeting, if you'd like more information, I can give you some of the blow-by-blow. And anyway, that's where that's at. So that's pretty much all I wanted to comment on this morning. So we'll move on to Mr. Sacy with our EMA report.
Over the past couple of months, early December, we hosted a tabletop exercise and pretended that we caught a lot of gasoline on fire over the Growmark plant, or the bulk fuel plant on Illinois 49. Had a number of healthcare entities present to participate, as well as fire departments, Growmark themselves, and a handful of others. We found it a very good exercise. We learned a lot of things, and we're finalizing a report, an after-action report, which I'll share with you once it's done and approved by the group that participated. But another thing that it's informing us of what exercises or what things we need to practice in the future. One of those things being set up unified command posts. So in the coming years, you'll see more exercises related to all this. With that, the state wanted another version of the county's training exercise plan. Usually they only want that once a year, but they have a timeline. They wanted it 3 months early. So EMA got that done along with another threat hazard identification risk assessment. Another thing that's expected once a year from Illinois Emergency Management Agency. They wanted 3 months early, so we had to rush and get that done. We got those 2 things done January 15th. So that has been consuming a lot of my time. through the state, we are working on a grant to get the hazard mitigation plan written. I've reported on that before. We have taken a couple of steps. At this point, to explain the process, I applied to the state, and the state in turn says to the federal government, these counties want to apply for this federal grant. So at the end of the day, it's a federal grant, but we have to work through the state to get it. And the feds have approved that yes, Iroquois County can receive this grant. Now you need to complete another application. So in order to do that, I need to complete application through some online portals, which has proven to be more complicated, but Ms. Johnson's been helping me access those portals. Thank you very much. So that's what we'll be working on in the coming week or two. As well as getting access to a new grant portal for my normal grants, EMPG, so on and so forth. We usually use, for years we've used a portal called SharePoint, and now the state's moving over to something called Amplifund, so I'm having to transition to that as well. And last, the death of Mike Miner. Mike Miner was a volunteer with Iroquois County EMA, so just wanted to acknowledge in public meeting that one of our volunteers has passed, and we will miss him. Contributed lots of, many times he would call me, let me know what storms he was seeing, go through the rural part of Iroquois County, so he will be missed.
He's also the gentleman that donated the vehicle that you used.
The Harold and Jean Miner Foundation donated the EMA Suburban. Before that, the Harold and Jean Miner Foundation put a VHF radio in my personal truck before we had the Suburban. So, yes. Yes, indeed.
I have a question for you. This morning when I came, I drove up to Gilman and came east on Highway 24, and I noticed there's some pipeline being installed along the side of the highway. Do you know what that is?
I do not know what that is.
Looks like it might be a gasoline, or not gasoline, but natural gas pipeline.
Natural gas.
Is it?
Central gas, and it's connecting up to Incabrasa, not through that area.
They're going east to Gilman. What are they connecting to east to Gilman?
There's a pipeline over there. But Marathon's pipeline's over there, but I think there's another one that runs through there in that area. I just know Jeff Meyer checked it out because they were moving a lot of dirt east of K&H, and the guys told him that it was a natural gas line coming from the north on the east side of Gilman, and we kept going west toward to hook up to Incabrasa area out in that area.
Are they connecting to like a major natural gas pipeline? Is that what you heard?
Yes.
Okay. Then if so, then that's probably the Midwestern, it's called Midwestern Gas. It's they'd be connecting to a pipeline that runs roughly like so through Iroquois County. The one that got hit was a petroleum product or liquid gasoline and sometimes oil. That was Marathon, and that runs roughly like this. This is a natural gas, so gaseous state gas, and it runs through Iroquois County like that.
So where does it cross Highway 24?
I don't know for sure.
It's east of Gilman though. The pipe that they were working with, I just glanced at it, but it looked like it's about a 4-inch diameter pipe. That's a pretty good sized pipe for natural gas.
This won't be the first utility that's installed along US 24. There are other, whether it's fiber or smaller gas transmission lines that run along most US highways.
I understand, but I think it's also important that we are aware of it or know what's going on with it. I sometimes think we lose sight of the fact that such a quiet, peaceful county that we have here, that we have a lot of opportunities for problems.
Indeed. On the subject of pipelines, pipelines are actually required to report to the governments that they travel through. once a year. So once a year, I receive emergency plans from major pipeline companies that work in Iroquois County. So when they finish projects, they'll be submitting plans to me.
They don't tell you beforehand?
No.
Fortunately, Mr. Yerger knows about it.
I just know because Jeff was curious what was going on, because they were moving a lot of dirt east of K and H. And he called me and I said, well, I know at one time that, the owner, Hersher was talking to a solar company about putting a solar farm in the ground he owns just east of K and H. But part of this property is in Gilman Corp and part of it's in the county, so he'd have to annex ground into Gilman to get done what he done, and then I never heard anything more about it. And then Jeff called me about that, and I said, well, go check it out. So we did, and he said it was, the foreman talked to him for a while and said it's a natural gas line, that's all I know. But where it connects to and all that stuff, I don't have a clue. But I know it's heading
Yeah,
west toward
Johnny's
Newport Roswell.
seen it like I'm lost.
Well, again, like I said, I think it's important that we are aware of these things, and if you have information once they get done with it, so that anybody that has a question, we know what's there. We know where the potential hazards might exist as well.
Like blow up Gilman.
I don't know. East of Gilman on Highway 24 is a mile north of K and H, so how they got from K and H up to there, I don't know.
No, you said it's going for Anchor, right?
I didn't say that.
I don't know if that's where they were headed to that to the industrial park that way, so.
Right,
Well-
but then, they're,
Well, Inca Brasa
They're
would be
east.
straight across. Inca Brasa, if it is Inca Brasa, it goes straight across.
Is it diagonal north of Gilman, or is it natural gas line?
What I observed, because I was actually in Gilman last night, and I saw a line being installed parallel to US 24 on the east edge of Gilman.
Right.
I know Inca Brasa is planning some major expansion, so it wouldn't surprise me if they needed a bigger gas line or something.
you know that they're planning a major expansion, they just expanded not too long ago, increased their capacity by 50%.
Rumor mill says they're gonna build a biodiesel facility. They're trying to buy more farm ground from Kears and add on to the west of the plant and put in some kind of biodiesel because the soybean oil is highly good. It's good for, which kind of fuel? Diesel?
Yeah.
Yeah, for diesel fuel.
There was a similar project that was brought before the board a number of years ago that was denied.
John?
Yeah.
John, I suggest you form a committee of people near Gilman to look into this matter, report back to our next P&P meeting if there's any problems with the county.
There's two right there that are there.
It's all speculation at the table today.
Well, that's true, but I certainly think it's important for us to be aware of these things.
That's why I say it should go forward.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So Barb and Lyle, if you guys pick up any information, bring it to us next month, that'd be great.
Unless I works at in Cabrazo, what do you know?
Not only that, but you can talk to the mayor, he's very friendly.
Oh.
Okay, let's move on here, we got an update on sexual harassment training for 2021 and wondering what wonderful plans we might have for 2022.
I don't have any. The updates aren't available yet, so as soon as they are, then we'll get something set up. If there is gonna be any changes, I'm not sure, but it's still, when I log on, it's still reading 2021, so. As soon as it gets updated, then I will start the process.
Well, I guess one of the reasons I have plans for 2022 is that we have a different insurance carrier now, and I'm not sure if we're gonna be offering the same kind of deal where they'll be here with for people that wanna do it in person and get it
Yeah.
over with.
Yeah, still planning on doing a, in-person session, and then, getting something set up virtually.
We ought to be getting into that pretty soon then.
As soon as they release any changes to the sexual harassment training.
Okay. Discussion and action on establishing a county ordinance covering raffles and poker runs. To my knowledge, our state's attorney is not,
I emailed Jim, what day did we talk, Monday, Tuesday? And I did not hear anything back from him.
we'll table that for now, bring it up next month, and hopefully we'll get something completed then. That being the case, our next item is going into an executive session. Can we have a motion to do that?
So moved.
You wanna read off what your motion is?
Oh, okay. 5 ILCS 120/2/C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Burns. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're on to executive session. Meeting with our finance manager this morning.